one of my teachers was the first to make the relationship between what we feel with our hands in sacrocranial wave therapist and a pressure wave which is inside the body. And so I have a little knowledge of programming, a little knowledge also of electronics, and I put everything together and I built my first device. We can measure with simple things, with simple devices. We can measure the pressure wave inside the body and make the relationship between this pressure wave and the feeling of the hands of the sacrocranial therapist. Since this time, well, it was more than 10 years ago, the device has been improved, and also the technologies was improved, and now we can have very simple devices working with iPhones, with Bluetooth connection, and we get a lot of different information coming from the body. I will show you. Patrick, sorry. I will show more the next lecture. In this first lecture, I would like to as I'm a biologist, I would like also to explain you more about the physiology, and you will see that there is a close relationship between what we are measuring, what we are trying to measuring about this link to physiology, what is performance, what is stress, and how we can manage all these things together to be, well, more healthy, more happy, and we'll see. So these are, you see, these are the small devices that I will talk more about. These small devices.
We're going to pass some around the room just so you can look as Patrick talks. We're passing toys around.
Very small, and there is a connection with iPhone, iPad, and.
This is the ear clip. This is the finger clip, which also does blood oxygen as well.
But you can
pass them around.
In the third lecture, you can play with this stuff.
That's right.
You can test.
Experiential.
Yes, you can experience. And so in this part, I will begin with this very old graph. I think it's more than 100 years ago, and it was a relationship between performance and stress in the body. And first, it was mainly related to hormone regulation inside the body. And now, thanks to the new insight of science and the new devices that are measuring medical imagery and things like that, we can also make a relationship to this graph with waves. And that's what we were talking since the beginning of this session here. We are talking about frequencies, we are talking about waves. And in fact, I will try to explain shortly in this lecture the relationship between wave frequency and the body. Also the relation, Dan has already talked about it, is a famous equation. And then we will have physiology of performance, well-being, happiness, bliss, but also related to the physiology of stress. In fact, well, Dan already said there are two different kinds of waves. So there are mechanical waves, electromagnetical waves, and well, in the spectrum we know there is a part which is related to the visible part, so the light we can see. Another part which is to the frequency we can hear. But there are also, and Stefan Cardino talked about it yesterday, there are also some other frequencies, some emission of light coming from the body, and you see that there is some difference in the shape of the energy which is coming out of the body. There was some lack of energy to some stagnation of energy in different parts. I will talk more about it. And well, Dan explained just this longitudinal wave a few minutes ago. But what is very important to know is that the body is working like an hologram. So everywhere in the body you will get the entire body. So some people are working on your feet and they touching your stomach on your feet. You can, in the ears, with some needles, touch also different organs of the body. And also there is a beautiful relationship between the bones, your backbones, and the different organs of your body. And in fact, they've made some experiments. So if they create a problem with one of your organs, the bone which is in relationship will be also in a bad position. And it's going both ways. So if you heal the organ, the bones will recover this wave. And if you fix the wave of the bone, you will also have problem with an organ inside the body. And the proof was really done, well, in 1957 by a French doctor who were working on the frequencies of the ears and in fact this guy is called Tomatis, and he has proved that you cannot produce a sound that your ear cannot catch. So if you have a problem in the frequency spectrum of your ear, you cannot produce this same frequencies.
You can't hear what you can't say. Vice versa.
You can say what you can hear.
Would you move that way just because the light behind you messes with the camera? Or is that not convenient? Yeah, sorry.
It's better?
Yes, it is better. Yes, sir. Thank you. Sorry.
And well, this doctor recovered the voice of Maria Callas.
Maria Callas.
Just by making some gym of the ears frequencies. Well, everybody knows that your voice is changing when you're stressed. You're losing a lot of the harmonics in your voice. And there are two voices analyzers. See, and a spectrum analyzer. Lower frequency on the left, high frequency on the right. And you will see on the top, this is an old person, which is going quite well. And you see the spectrum is filled with a lot of different frequencies. And the lower part of the graph, it's a young and stressed boy, which is passing his exams in the university. And you see the stress, most of the frequencies are missing. This is an hearing test from low frequency to high frequency, according to what Tomatis was making. And in fact, you don't hear at the same accuracy the different frequencies of the spectrum. And there is a band here, and in this band, normally you should hear more, and you should hear less higher frequency and less lower frequency, because this band here, the central band here, which is on the top, you see, of the curve, is the frequency that we communicate with. Okay, the speech frequencies. And during aging, normally you're losing high frequency and a little bit also low frequency. Well, everything. So the shape of the curve should change a little bit. When you're hearing frequencies, in fact, there are two ways that your ears are managing the frequency that you get. The normal way, it's the sound coming from outside through the tympanum here. So it's coming from the outside, the tympanum, then there are three little bones, and then it moves a liquid inside the internal ear.
Pinecone.
You see the spiral here. Sorry?
Pinecone, like pinecone.
Yeah, yes, it's a pinecone again. The same thing that what you showed. Everything is in nature. And so in this fine cone, there are little hairs. And these little hairs are placed at different places inside the spiral. And regarding... So, small hairs.
If you're French, the H is silent. Lost in translation. Hair.
Yes.
That's the frequency.
So this hair are moving at different frequencies, and so they are connected to the brain, and so the brain makes a translation to which one is sending information, and that's how you can get lower, high frequencies or whatever. This is one way.
And the hair length is tuned. The lengths of the hairs are tuned.
Yeah.
Perfect pitch. It's beautiful.
Yeah. So the other way is not coming from outside. And that's the reason why when you make a recording of your voice, when you play it back, you say, well, who is this? This is not my voice. Because you're sending the vibration inside your head through your bones. So your skull is like a violin or like a guitar. You understand? Mm-hmm. And so what you get directly the vibration from inside of your head. And so when we are measuring the quality of what you can, the sound that you can get, we can make two different tests, and we will get two different results. One test, we will send different frequency from outside with a normal headset, and the other test, we use a special sensor that we place directly on the bone, the temporal bone, where this spine cone is inside, and then you're not hearing exactly the same thing that what's coming from outside, and you will get different kind of shapes. You see, so left ear, right ear, and from one person to another, you will see that there are completely different shapes. Normally, you will have the frequency shape that I've shown before. You see this curve in light blue, but there are.
What is the horizontal axis and what is the vertical axis?
It's decibel. Vertically it's decibel,
yes.
And horizontally it's frequencies. So from 100 Hertz to 8,000 almost.
Okay. It's nothing to do with the...
And in fact, I will show you, there is a relationship between the different part of the body and the frequencies. Why is there a relationship between the different part of the body and the frequencies? That's what Thomas is explaining, and his explanation is much more simple than what we saw yesterday.
That's where Stefan was going.
Stefan went a lot of step forward. But in fact, if you want to make a bell, to create a bell with very, very low frequency sound, you will create a big bell and very heavy bell. Big bones, big muscles on the lower part of the body. If you want to create a very high sound from a bell with a very high sound, it will be a very thin and very small one. Ding, ding, ding. Very thin bone on the skull. That's how Tomatis makes a relationship, and it's working quite nice when you're looking what's happening inside the ear frequency display. You will see that there is clearly a relationship. Also, what you can have is that when we are sending a sound to the bone which is related to one ear, you can say, okay, I hear it from this ear, okay, Or you can say, no, it's not this one. I hear it from the other side. And in fact, we have two brains. And one brain is much more related to family emotion, and the other brain is much more related to work, Cartesian thinking. And when you're in front of a big stress during your life, according to the kind of stress that you're living, if it's a family stress, an emotional, a relationship stress, it will slow down the brain which is in relation with this kind of stress. So it will slow down the emotional brain. If you have, you're in front of a big stress in your business, in your work, it will slow down the brain which is related to mathematics, to work. And it's a protection, because otherwise your brain will turn and turn and turn around thinking about this problem, and you will die. So it's physiology. It's reduce this brain. But the problem is that if you don't use this brain directly, so each you see, there is difference in different frequency of the spectrum from one person to another. Maybe I can show you again. You see, there are two different persons. You see, the shape are completely different. And what you will get is that a specific frequency which is related to the part of the body where which was in resonance with the stress that you have lived, it can slow down the way that you will catch this frequency. And there is also what I just mentioned, that if you cannot hear on this part of the brain, well, let's say the right brain, when you are sending this frequency sound to one of your ear, you will listen as it was coming from the other side. And so when you're making different kind of therapy, what could happen is that it can solve this. So it will make a new connection in your brain from one side to the other. So instead of saying, okay, I cannot hear on my right ear this frequency, but once you have made the therapy, the connection will be done again inside your, and so you can get back the correct information from the ear. You see, we can make different kind of analysis. So this is an hearing test. This is a voice analysis, and you see that in fact what is important is the relationship between the red curve and the blue one. So you remember the blue one was what you get from the outside, the red one is what you get from the inside. And in fact, information will be extracted from the relative position of these two curves. So if the internal curve, let's say the red one, is above the blue one, it means that you're in a very high protection to this part of the frequencies. And you see here, there is a higher part for the red curve and a lot of missing frequency at the same frequencies in the voice analysis. So this is, you see the D for right in French and G for left in French, when sound are sent to the person and to the one ear, and they get from the other one. And in fact, when you're probably that if we make an hearing test just after a therapy session, everything will be mixed, because it's if we do it just right after, because everything is there's some kind of reset.
Its
inside the
ability to
body.
pass through center. So it's the nature of the center that does the sorting. So if you restore centrifugal force to the center, you should have more symmetry afterwards.
Yeah, it should be interesting to test
Because
it.
one ear is actually sending it through the center. That's why it's perceived like it's literally a phase conjugate mirror.
Yeah, yeah. Also, just one thing again, is that we are sending also two close frequencies, and when people cannot make the difference between these two sounds, it's called some kind of emotional
Dissonance?
no, like a curtain.
Oh, like a block.
Okay, yeah. And normally, each year, so the first year when you're born, the second year, the third year, you will get more accuracy to make the
Sort.
yes, to solve these two frequencies. And it goes up to about 10 years old. And that's the reason why when you're going to learn to play music, it should be around 10 years, because otherwise you can not make the distinction between the two different notes.
Yeah, I mean, it's documented. If you learn Mozart when you're very young, IQ goes up, and my mother taught me Mozart.
Yeah, but in average it's about 10 years old. But some adults still, well, this is a 50 years old person. You see all the blue lines here. It means that this person cannot make the difference, not between two notes, but between two octaves of the same notes.
To discriminate.
Yeah, to discriminate.
Change
So
octave.
it's for me it's the same. It's the same
Whereas
sound.
if you determine what young people develop perfect pitch because of musical experiences very young, that's the opposite.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So should be nice if you speak. Oh, okay. So this is what Stefan Cardinals talked about yesterday, and Catherine also. And this is Korokov pictures, and what is very interesting is to cross over the result from the hearing test here, the voice analysis, and also the light emission from the body from Korokov. And we have very, very interesting result when you cross over this result.
Like where you measure holes in the aura.
Yes, yes. This is very important. In fact, this curve I talk about, you see that each 10 years you decrease your the way that you can catch the frequencies. So your accuracy of the ears is decreasing. These curves were done in 1950, I think. And what's happening now, that a lot of people, when we are making tests now, and when people are stressed, this is a 50 years old analysis, hearing test of a 50 years old woman. You see, this is 50 years old. This is normally, that was measured quite a long time ago, before Wi-Fi, before Wi-Fi, before mobile, before everything that, all the waves that we are getting now. And you see, normally, this person should be here, the light blue, and you see that she receives more information than the kid. So it's like a very big irritation. So that this person is, there is too much noise, too much sound, too much waves, which are, so person is going like this.
So even the kid can't hear as much as his grandmother did.
She hears better than a kid.
Because she had a pristine youth.
Yeah, yeah. But it's not normal, because, and you see, it's the curve is completely flat. Instead of having this shape with the part of communication which is above all the other, which is completely flat. And it means that irritation from the sound of the fridge, it's impossible to hear. We have to cut it. The sound of the little kids playing in the playground is too much. So it's appearing these last years because of all the frequencies. We cannot go into a shop, a big shop, without listening music. You go to a restaurant, there is music. But it's not music, because it's compressed music. Because
exactly.
Otherwise you don't hear it.
Patrick, if we do just a little add here, the physics then of why actual solar frequencies create attention span and fluorescent lights measurably destroy attention span is if all those frequencies were being bombarded with were tuned to be conjugate, they would be implosive and create attention. So we can retune all those frequencies which are disturbing us and make them embedable, theoretically.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the relationship. It's completely different from what we saw yesterday, but this is the relationship that Tomatis has done between the low and the high frequency and on the different part of the body with different modes. And in our apps, so extracting information, extracting wave from the body, we have tried to make also a relationship between the different parts of the body and to display it. And I was looking for a way to make a relationship between the chakra and the frequency that can be extracted from the heart. And in fact,
so this is going to be the app I Thrive and I Thrive Chakras.
yes. Thank you.
Which Patrick wrote. 5 apps. Amazing.
And in fact, I was looking, well, if you're looking on the net about the not the frequency, but the notes, the musical notes related to the chakra, you will find a lot of different information. I think that they're quite good, even if they're different, because when you're playing a note on a musical instrument, there are harmonics which are coming. So probably that it depends that to which focus the people they try to catch the note were on.
Exactly.
So it could be different. So if one say this chakra is a C, no, it's a E. It can be. I could agree, but we have to find a simple way to make the relationship between the chakra and the music notes.
In the heart.
And the music note coming from the heart, yes. And in fact, I cross over different information. One was coming from a guy which is making healing session with tuning forks. And he got very, very beautiful results. He's called Michel Laroche. And also another guy, which is Tony Serron, which is an alchemist, who is also finding the same kind of frequencies. And what Dan talked about, and we will talk more about this kind of display about emotional balance between two persons. And Dan has done a lot of different tests on different people, asking them when the coherence peak is on this position of the scale, what do you feel? And when this peak was in 0.6, so golden number, they say, I feel I'm in my heart. And this is a G squared. And so if we cross over all this information here coming from Michel Laroche, Tony Serron, and also the information of Dan, you see everything.
We should say that, sorry. The amplitude of that peak is the cepstrum. So the position of that peak right, left in white is the musical key signature of the heart. So that graph there is the musical key signature of the heart. And when it was at 1.0 seconds, people were stuck in their head. When it was at golden mean 0.618, they were touchy-feely, feeling lovey, touch permissive, we call it. The G sharp from Patrick.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And one more information was coming from
G sharp. There you go.
from Michel, no, from Nogier. Nogier is the guy who found the acupuncture in the ears, and that he played also a lot of times sending waves to the body, and trying to see how the body was responding to the waves. And he found that the frequency of the aura was about 20 Hertz. So, and this is again the same kind of finding that we have.
So if you have the heart's musical fundamental, and the original way we did that was with the EKG, which is expensive, and Patrick did it much less expensively with HRV pulse, which you can measure very cheap, which is I Thrive Chakras.
Yeah. And so when we go back to the first graph and make the relationship with biofeedback device, in fact we can have real-time display. Well, we can measure heart rate variation, but also blood pressure variation. Remember, I talked about this pressure wave which is inside the body. I will talk more about this. EKG and also EEG, brain waves. In fact, there are two kinds of apps. So some apps which are called iDrive, there are 3 different apps which are related to frequency coming from the heart, and also another app which is called Flame in Mind. First, it was dedicated to measure the brain waves and also the relationship between the different peaks according to the golden number that Dan explained before. And then we can also use this device to make an EKG. Well,
And that's what you saw before measuring
Yes.
speed. That was the
but,
flame.
we will explain more about this later.
So it's iThrive, ITHRVE, or ITHRVE.com. So iThrive Stress, iThrive Chakras, and iThrive Self.
And so
Flame in Mind.
with this real-time display, we can got a lot of information about performance, stress management, relaxation, meditation, internal coherence, also emotional balance, and we will see also it's possible to measure the quality of your sleep. So you can take this small chest strap, you put it on your body during the night, and it will analyze the quality of your sleep. I will explain more about it.
I mean, normally sleep analysis is very expensive in a hospital. Now you can actually determine if you're getting deep sleep, the dream access with deep sleep. Very expensive.
We have different
Just punch one of those, just so people see what they are. Yeah, that's the most important slide. But that's the thing.
There are two websites, and with you see these 3 apps are mainly related to HRV and to heart waves, and these 2 are related to brain waves, but also to sound. But I will talk more about the sound that we create.
So the Flame in Mind uses the perfect binaural called Flame in Sound.
This is the other website.
Yeah, that's
mainly related only to art.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, just so they see, they actually see the spelling of the website. So there's 3 apps there. They're all HRV. iThrive.
It's I for iPhone and the HRV. See, it's Thrive with mixed
Without the I.
Yes.
So the HRV is in the word.
Well, in fact, we have different kind of sensors. As I already told you, the visible part, the heat, the infrared part, the ear, what you can get with your ears, but there are also lower frequencies that you can catch with your body. It's coming from the snakes. The snakes are feeling the vibration in the ground. If there is a big truck coming the way near your house, you will feel the truck, the vibration of the truck. But what is very interesting is that we can also feel lower frequency. We can learn to get this connection again to this very low frequency that sacrocranial therapists get. And these are, we talk about, Ben talked about a lot this morning, these are scalar waves. So as these are scalar waves, you can, when you have learned to feel it inside your body, you can also be in connection to what you decide to be. You can be in connection with a tree and feel the slow frequency of the tree. You can also make the connection to the sun. If you listen to this, make the connection to the scalar wave with the sun, you will feel that the sun is breathing about, well, depends, between 5 and 10 minutes. But you can feel it inside your body.
And it's called scalar because it changes scale without changing ratio, which is what allows you to feel things that are smaller or larger because of that conjugate cascade.
Well, this then already explained. It's another way to explain, that this famous scale, with each step of the scale, there is a ratio, a relationship with golden ratio.
And you see, Patrick actually applied that to the psychophysiology. It was beautiful.
And you see another way to display the scale of the frequency that is found. You see that, well, in birds here, but for very low frequency, it's easier to say cycles per minute. And you find, again, the nausea frequency of the R. And then when you go down, you see the Schumann frequency, which is the frontier between alpha and theta.
That's a beautiful slide. It's all there. If you get it, you got the Schumann harmonic, brave harmonic.
You go down, this is the respiration of a child. You go down one step again, you have the respiration of an adult. You go down again, you have something, a frequency that one school of osteopath feel with their hand. There are two different schools, and there are 5.
But they both
say, no,
this is the most important one.
Yes,
They both
mine is but
they both fit the cascade.
One is here, the other one is there.
They all fit the equation, which means they're all negotropic and plosive. That's the point.
They're just measuring the same thing, but on different level.
Scaling variance.
So if you go down one more, you get the sacrocranial wave, which is the famous 0.1 hertz. Everybody is talking about. Art Martis using to make you breathe from it. And then when you go more down to the frequencies, you will find the emptiness of the brain ventricles. I can show you.
Could you say what you mean by that?
Okay.
Yeah.
These are the brain ventricles. So these brain ventricles are filled with LCR.
This is Bentov teaching how Kundalini happens. There's a song happening in the ringing in your ear, and this is the cornucopia, the horns of Lucifer and Moses. So these horns become phonon coherent. The ventricles are ringing, and
so they're filled with liquid. Normally, this liquid has to go down to the spine.
the drain.
The drain to the spine. And at a very slow rhythm, about 1 time per minute, it depends. Very slow rhythm. But when people are stressed or bones of the skull are fixed, so the waves are not moving anymore.
Too tight.
Yeah. This emptiness is not working.
So the ability to relax, and it would be synonymous with the ability to relax. So remember, later when Bentov is measuring Kundalini, this is how he does it, with this liquid.
So you see the outdoor place in the brain.
That's beautiful. Patrick, that is gorgeous. I love that.
So,
Okay, Lion Forest was in there, sorry.
so life is wave weaving. So when vitality, vitality means that you have a beautiful amplitude in your waves. And this is a HRV recording of an healthy person here. and ear of a people, an old and not healthy person. You see the vitality is, the wave is waving.
And what that meant was embedding. The small wave has to fit inside the big wave, and Darvik showed in that was that harmonic inclusiveness is the way you measure immune health. So that embeddability is optimized by conjugate coloration.
See, this is the second person before and after an healing session. You see that recovering a lot of amplitude and tonality. This is it. Just I don't know. I have to go a little bit faster. So, in fact, what you're when you're breathing, when you breathe in, your heart rate increases. When you breathe out, your heart rate decreases. And this is mainly the main part of HRV. And they have seen the medical people which were trying to see how people are recovering after a heart attack. They make they took the spectrum analysis of the wave of the HRV. And they get this kind of frequency spectrum. And for healthy people, they have a beautiful peak in the LF band. Well, low frequency, very low frequency, high frequency band. You see VLF, LF, and HF. And around 0.1 Hertz, when people are healthy, they get a beautiful peak. And after a heart attack, everything is flat. You see. And the more they will recover, the more they will get again this peak, this LFP.
Which is like the phase conjugate caduceus, implosive collapse.
And you see that, in fact, this LFP, so this 0.1 per frequencies, they get from HRV, but it's not exactly coming from HRV. It's mainly coming from a pressure wave. And this pressure wave was discovered by a guy which is called Mayer, and that's the reason why it's called the Mayer wave. But these are blood pulses we can measure with
Finger plethysmogram, like a pentagram.
In fact, in the beginning, it was very difficult and very invasive. You have to go to an hospital with a needle inside your vessel, connected to a pressure monitor. But now, we just use these small sensors.
That's what we passed around.
Yeah. Light is passing through the finger. I will explain more about that.
And Patrick is one who really pioneered measuring that pressure wave, the long wave embedded in the short wave of the heart pulse
So you
pressure.
see, that's what you get. When you're healthy, you get, these are the light pulses, so the pressure which is moving inside your finger, and you see there is another wave which is...
There's a wave on the wave, it's called the envelope.
wave.
The tip of the short waves nests embeds along it.
Because you're a lot, and you can feel it with your hand when you're very sensitive. You can feel it with your hand with the body because there is a lot of very small vessels. I can show you here.
Perfected vasodilation. Vasoconstriction is stress vasodilation.
This is a foot of a horse. You see all the blood vessels.
Very fractal.
So it's incredible. There are a lot inside the body. Well, this is what was explained by Darvik. So in the body we have waves within waves, and they're all waving. So what's important is to make the relationship between the lower frequency waves, which are all the higher frequency are embedded in. So if you increase this lower frequency wave here, you will get an higher effect on the other wave which are embedded in, and you see each time you increase, but it's also going both ways. So if you have an organ in the body which didn't vibrate correctly, it will affect the small wave of your whole body. And so if you heal this organ, you will recover more, a bigger, lower wave also.
So the original graph was from Darvik, but the label, the labels are from me.
So, I said I was talking a little bit about physiology. In fact, I will explain you the relationship between how the waves are inside our body and the relation to performance and stress. In fact, we have two systems in the body. One which is called parasympathetic and the other one which is called sympathetic. I will call the sympathetic ortho and the other one para. It should be easier for this part. In fact, there are these two nervous systems. The orthosympathetic system is for fight and flight. So you are in front of something happening, you run or you fight. And the other one is mainly to recovering, energy restoration and digestion. And this is what is happening. In fact, these two systems are antagonists. So normally they are not activated at the same time. The only time that they are activated at the same time is during orgasm. And so if we take again the first graph, you see the recovering part is here, the rest part, the parasympathetic system is on the left. Here the fight and flight is on the right. And the only, normally you're here somewhere in the middle when everything is okay. And this is where they are activated at the same time. You see, this is the best performance. So, when you're a little bit stressed, what's happening is that your orthosympathetic will be improved and the parasympathetic one will be slowed down. And you see that orthosympathetic system is increased, so your heart is increased, your blood pressure is increasing, but the digestive secretion should be lower. And that's what happened when that's what happened for a very small stress. But if you are front of a very, very, very big stress, what happens is that there are no more antagonists. So this one is okay, slowing down, but everything is inverted in this one, in the orthosympathetic system. Your heart can stop, your breath, you say, so your breath is slowing down also, and in the digestive part, everything is inverted. So instead of the peristaltism normally should stop, it increase, so you have irritation. You can have ulcer. And what it is well known that when you are very in front of a very, very, very big stress, your sphincter doesn't work anymore. So, and it's important to understand why this, and to understand why we have to go back to the evolution. In fact, our sympathetic system are coming from our ancestor in the evolution, and our ancestor between mammals are fish. So, what happens if there is stress for a fish? So you throw a stone in the water, the fish will run immediately. For humans, for mammals, if you're in front of stress or big noise or something like that, you don't bite your neighbor or you don't begin to run. You just move a little bit, what's happening, what should I do? And this is the key to, this is a buffer, this is a key buffer to the stress. And in fact, it is linked to communication. And this buffer is really the key to the stress management. if you see what's happening in evolution in fish, you see there are already these two systems. But if the fish is in front of a very, very big stress, and the very, very big stress for a fish, it's a lack of oxygen in the water. And so everything is frozen, it doesn't move anymore, and is waiting to what will happen, hoping that the oxygen will come back. And in fact, it's quite a recent discovery done by Stephen Porges, and he has found that, in fact, there are for mammals, there are two different kinds of parasympathetic systems. One which is below the diaphragm and one which is above the diaphragm. And there are two different kinds of fibers, old and slow fibers below the diaphragm and fast fibers above the diaphragm. So slow fibers, very slow responses, and fast fibers, much faster responses. And all these fibers are related to salivation, sucking, eye movement, ears, talking, but also faces muscles. And faces muscles are directly related to communication. And also emotional response. That's the reason why we see these kind of things. And in fact, well, I already told it's going both ways. And when you make a communication with somebody, when you're talking to somebody, when you're talking, your heart will increase. When you're listening, your heart will decrease. And so, what will happen if we are looking at the evolution? If we don't have this normal fast fibers system which is responding because too much stress are coming, you're going directly to use the second system, which is the orthosympathetic system, and you will get aggressiveness and you will lose your sociability. So your response will be too impulsive. And if this system is not working anymore, you go to the very, very ancestor system, which is the system which leads you to the burnout and depressiveness. This is the cat in front of the mouse, which feel death, because she don't want to fight anymore. Okay? So let's go back again to this graph. So if we have these three systems, it means that if everything is working fine inside your body, fine, okay, understood. If everything is working fine inside your body, you will be working somewhere here, okay? But if this first system is not working anymore, you're going here. If this one is not going anymore, you're going there. So you see, this graph can summarize, and I will show you now that it's also possible to use it about the brainwave and to understand. It's quite recent. In fact, they have found something in the brain that they call the flow. And the flow is a special state, and they discover it because scientists now with medical imagery can see a lot of new things which are happening inside the body. And they were asking what was happening for people which were making some kind of crazy thing, like walking on a wire 10 meters from the floor, like this, okay? And you see, they have placed a special helmet on the head, connected to a recording device, just to analyze what was happening inside the brain of the person. And they also make some experiments. This guy is a guy which is making an apnea for more than 7 minutes. And they wanted to see what was happening in his brain. If his brain, the first part of the experiment, they wanted to see if his brain was damaged or not. But in fact, they found the same thing in this guy, that the one which is working on a wire.
So he stopped breathing, but he was fine.
Yeah. And also for music players. So music players are also in this kind of special state, when they're very connected with the thing that they're
And see, what Patrick's about to say is we have a new feature in our frame in mind to measure that front-back EEG compare for the flow.
Yes, we are adapting it,
Yes.
and we can play a little.
Yes, the new frame in mind will actually check that.
And in fact, what they are getting is very slow waves which are appearing, and these slow waves are appearing in the back part of the brain. This is somebody which is thinking from part of the brain. And here you can see when they are in this state of flow, it's only the back part of the brain which is activated. This is the guy from with apnea before, so a normal breath. You see there is, well, the activity of the brain is almost everywhere, the center. And during his apnea, you see there is much more communication between left and right brain. And also the main part which is activated is the back part. And this is very interesting. When I discovered this a few times ago, then I said that, well, the first device that we have made to display the down equation inside the brain, so the fractality of the frequency, the left and right brain communication and things like that. But we were using that. Told me you don't forget the front brain, because you will not find anything what he was looking for. So we only use the sensor of the headset, which are on the temporal or the back part of the brain. And we found bliss. We found this relationship in
the back of the head.
But when I got this information about this flow, what I'm trying to do now, and I'm updated the app, is to measure the front waves, the front part of the brain, but I'm looking when they're disappearing. And so I make a correlation between the disappearance of the front part of the brain and the appearance of the golden ratio in the back part of the brain. So I will show you when we can show you the
Yes, which is experiential next to lectures. So if you have an athlete who wants to be in the flow,
just one more minute, and in fact this flow is defined, well, it's a very well-being state but active. So if we are talking about musicians, it's not somebody which is playing violin like this. It's something which is playing violin like this.
with feeling.
With feelings and with a connection to the body is knowing what to do. This is a connection. This is a body. You don't say, I will do this with my body. The body is moving. It's like Tai Chi. When you can get this information also from Tai Chi. You can also, while you are making some meditation, if you allow during your meditation, you allow your body to move, you will also get this movement. It will be induced automatically, and it will lead you to the state. So it's very well-being and active. So it must be really related to pleasure. The guy which is working on this wire, it takes pleasure to do it, otherwise he will not do it. When they are playing music, so it must be related to pleasure, it must be related to a challenge. So you will not get it if you are playing a very easy piece of music. It must be a little bit challenge. And then you will be inside the music. You will make one with the music, and everything will move. and you will be in the flow.
Patrick,
We'd like to leave a couple of minutes for questions too, Patrick.
Okay.
well, Patrick has 2 more talks to do that for questions too.
Well, they're fresh on people's minds, so we're going to leave a couple of minutes.
So it's okay, we can stop here. That was just the...
So if your athlete wants to be in the flow, we can measure it, it becomes teachable.
So you have to be a little bit stressed. In fact, when you're a musician player is playing and you will go to the flow, at the beginning you say, oh, I have to be a little bit stressed. And then the stress is going and you are going in this way. And when you're there, I will show you, you can stay there for minutes. Because bliss, it's very short time. It's very difficult to stay in bliss for a long time. But in the flow, you can stay there for minutes.
Yeah, so back like her. Yeah. Patrick is in the flow.
Two more lectures.
Two more lectures.
Two more. Is there any more great questions while you're thinking of them now? Otherwise, Patrick is doing some other presentations.
We'll show you the in the flow thing later, actually, how it's done.
Can I just ask, if someone is in a flow like a musician and you observe the musician, am I getting something out of it also? Have you measured something like that? Because I believe I'm getting it too. If I'm just by observing.
Thank you, yes.
We give this in.
It could be contagious, that's the idea.
Yes.
Yes, bliss is contagious, exactly.
Yes, so just show me one sentence more that it's very important. We talk a little bit about empathy and connection between people. They discover recently that people who have Botox cannot feel the emotion of other people.
The Botox, the surgery.
Because they cannot make on their face
Flex.
the same shape of emotional state that the people they're in front of.
See, this is not an ad for Botox.